Rob, any thoughts on previous conversation? Otherwise, we'll jump into some of our proprietary stuff that we've got that we haven't touched on yet.
Really, the only quick question I wanted to ask Chris is one that I get asked a lot by, again, these golf courses that we work with tend to not be very proactive. Probably the thing they let go the most until it's a huge issue is cattails. Chris, what would you give a superintendent a quick, cattail control program, timing a year and products? Because it's probably our biggest question.
Yeah, so cattails, they can be, some people don't want any of them. Some people want to keep a little stand, and so
Yeah, exactly.
As far as like the type of product, so when we come, especially on a golf course, we want to make sure, like if the water's used for irrigation purposes, we are going to be limited on what products we can use. If it's an irrigation pond that has cattails, the two products that are available would be glyphosate, an Aquatic approved glyphosate, or a Mazamox. A Mazamox trade names would be like Clearcast or iMox. Top Deck is another one. A Mazamox is a tool to be used I think it's a 24-hour restriction on using the water for irrigation purposes after treatment with the Mazamox. Whereas with like a Mazapure, which is in the same class of chemistry, so a Mazapure would be like Polaris, Habitat, Eco Mazapure. That's a equally good product. It's about half the cost of a Mazamox, but it's got a 120-day irrigation restriction on it. So that we wouldn't be able to use that in an irrigation pond. Glyphosate can be used in irrigation waters, but it does not give as good a control of rhizomes, cattail rhizomes, as we would get from either a Mazapure or a Mazamox. So now one thing, Kevin was already kind of going down the path of proprietary products. When we're treating or emergent vegetation like cattails, those, especially in aquatics, those plants are designed just physiologically, the leaves repel water more so even than like terrestrial plants. And so surfactants are extremely critical, selecting the right surfactant. So on a cattail treatment with either a Mazapure or a Mazamox, I always recommend using our surfactant called Turbulence. Turbulence is a methylated seed oil organosilicon combination product that gives good spreadability. The MSO does help break down some of those waxy cuticles on the plant leaf surface. If there are any hydrophobic hairs on the leaves, our organosilicon component helps to overcome that and get good contact with the leaf surface and good uptake of the herbicide. So the other thing too is when we're treating with like these non-selective herbicides and we have grasses or landscape plants that maybe are adjacent to the pond, we want to make sure that we're doing not just for legal purposes but protecting our desirable vegetation. We want to make sure we're doing everything we can to minimize drift. And so Droplex is a great product for that. You can add that into whatever mix you're spraying for a foliar treatment. Typically, we can go up to 16 ounces per 100 gallons, 16 ounces per acre of Droplex. And so play with the rate and see what works with your particular sprayer setup. But that'll help reduce any or not eliminate, but it will help reduce off-target movement and potential unintended, damage to some of the desirable vegetation that's growing around the pond.
Yeah, that's a great point. And a lot of the guys that are listening to this already have Droplex sitting on their shelf. So
yeah,
it's not a big deal for them to plug that into their system and go out and spray it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great, and then our just straight up non-ionic surfactant, I like to recommend this to be used with glyphosate and a product called Clipper. Is a surfactant we have called Aqua-King Plus. It's a 95.5 non-ionic surfactant. It has pH buffering agents in there to help and protect that those chemical compounds that like lower pH and less hardness in the water, like we see with glyphosate and flumioxazin. So that's a good tool to have on the shelf as well.
What do you got, Rob?
Oh, no. I was just making a comment on the surfactants. I think that the turbulence is something that the majority of golf course superintendents haven't came in contact with, or even many of our lawn care customers that are taking care of ponds at residential settings. So I think it's important for us to make sure that they understand that we have other surfactants that will be a better choice in this situation.
Yeah, another one too. I mean, sometimes it's easier to keep things just simple. And if I was going to pick one product from our portfolio that's kind of like a Swiss Army knife that does a lot of things really well, that would be Droplex Xtra. So, Droplex Xtra is you got a good non-ionic surfactant, but you also have the Droplex component in there for reducing drift, off-target movement, helps with deposition.
Mm-hmm.
And also,
Sure.
too, the other thing with like big stands of vegetation like cattails or phragmites or giant cane is getting good penetration into that dense stand of vegetation. So Droplex is also labeled as a canopy penetrant. So when we have a big dense stand of thick vegetation, having Droplex in the tank helps get more droplets into that dense stand and get better coverage, which ultimately results in better control of those big dense stands of vegetation.
Your callbacks,
Sure. Okay.
right? Because I'm assuming that a lot of these customers have to go out multiple times just to make sure that the product is working and they're getting the control that is desired.
Exactly. And as far as like one of the questions y'all have had a couple times is about, well, how long does it take to see results? So like on a cattail treatment like that with a Mazapir or a Mazamox, both of those compounds act very slowly. It might be 4 to 6 weeks before you start to see any yellowing. I've gotten so many calls over the years. Oh man, I sprayed Polaris, which is a brand of a Mazapir, on the cattails 3 weeks ago, and you can't tell I did anything. I was like, that's all right. The product's working. Just be patient with it. Let it do its thing. And within 4 to 6 weeks, you should start to see some activity. The good news is after you make that treatment, the plant's not going to continue to spread. It'll stop growing and stop spreading. Just takes a little while to have the visual results of the control.
So another thing that we have as far as visual and aesthetics and appealing would be our dyes.
Mm-hmm.
So you have sold quite a bit of dyes. We had a conversation about this yesterday. How would somebody use a dye and in what situation, or is it recommended to use it in every application when you're dealing with, especially like a homeowner association or a golf course where that's the purpose of the lake is to look pretty?
Yeah, so lake dyes are a tool that can be used for a couple of things. One is just to give, a better color a better color appearance to the pond or lake. Another benefit is it does act as it's almost like putting sunglasses on your pond. It helps reduce the amount of sunlight penetration deeper into the water, which will not eliminate vegetation or algae, but it can slow down and reduce the severity of it. So using dye is a tool to manage and reduce, but not to completely eliminate vegetation. It doesn't work that well. Lake dyes come in two colors. They come in blue and they come in black. The blue is not, in my opinion, doesn't give a very natural look. And so usually we recommend that customers use a combination of the blue and black to give a more natural appearance. So we have two different colors, and we also have two different formulations. We have a liquid dye, our Mystic Lake color, that comes in blue and black. And then we also have our Mystic Lake water-soluble packets. So these water-soluble packets come in a nice little plastic container. It's got a resealable lid on the top. It's a water-soluble bag like you've probably experienced with some of the fungicides that are out on the market. And the ones that we have are actually double bagged, which is important because if you get any of that dye residue on your hand, even if it's a small amount, it seems to grow. And so we're pretty proud of our packs that they have 2 bags around. And when you open up that container, there should not be any dye residue in that container. You take the pack, throw it out, it hits the water surface, and that water soluble bag starts to degrade and dissolve, and then it releases the dye into the water. So those are the two different types of dyes that we have. Like I said, both of them do come in blue and black.
Say we like the water soluble packs. They're easy to apply. They're not messy like some of the liquids can be if you have a loose cap or something like that. But it's just a simple way to go out and you put it in the back of your cart, keep it somewhere. Anytime you need some more color, you just go throw a couple in the lake. It looks pretty good.
Exactly. And I'll tell you this, one warning that's not on the label is, I know golf course superintendents like to have dogs, and a lot of them end up with golden retrievers or black labs. I had a customer one time, a lake management company, and they were managing a lake on a guy's ranch, and they were standing on the dock, and he had this like prized hunting lab, and it was a white lab. So beautiful white coat. And he's standing on the dock, and he's got this blue water soluble packet. And he's like, yeah, these are really easy to apply. You just take the pack and you just throw it out in the pond. And he threw it on the pond. And as soon as he threw it, the white lab just boom, bails off the dock and goes out there and comes back. And now you have this white lab that's just turned blue, looks like a Smurf dog coming out of the lake.
Oh my God.
If you're a golf course superintendent and you're riding around your golf course with a box of Mystic water soluble packets in the bed of your cart, make sure your dog is not around when you throw them out in the pond, because you might have an issue on your hands. So
yeah, we'll throw a golf ball the other direction.
That's right. Distract them with something else. I will say this too. So when another question that I get when it comes to dye is like, well, how often do I need to apply it, and whatnot? So with dye, with these lake colorants that we have, as a good rule of thumb, you're going to lose about 20 to 25% of the dye content every 2 weeks. So what I tell customers, for every gallon of liquid that you pour in your pond, to maintain that level, you're going to add a quart every 2 weeks. So if you put out 4 gallons to treat this particular lake, every 2 weeks you're going out and putting a gallon in. Same thing with the packets. If you put out 4 packs, you're going to toss out 1 pack every 2 weeks just to maintain that level of dye. Now, the one thing that would disrupt that would be if you had a big rain and you flushed out, you might have to start over from scratch and completely re-dye the lake. What we don't want to see, like if you're using dye not only for aesthetic purposes, but for reducing or minimizing algae growth, you do want to make sure that we're maintaining that level. What you don't want to see is like, okay, we put in the dye, it's all dyed up, and then we don't do anything for 3 months and it all dissipates. Now you've taken away that dye's ability to reduce the amount of algae that's there, because you have these gaps in coverage. So we want to maintain it at a constant level throughout the growing season. So
that makes sense. Yeah, you get a lot of customers that might throw them out right at the beginnings and then expect, we're not going to have any algae, but then they have problems later on, or vice versa, where they have a bunch of algae and they go and throw these out and they expect control, but it's not the purpose of the product. So
right. Yeah. Dyes are not algicides. They're not designed to just, to control algae. It's just designed as a tool to help minimize or reduce the severity of it. So.
Very good. I think this was a really productive conversation. I appreciate your time today, Chris.
Sure.
And,
yeah.
I don't really have a whole lot else to discuss. I think we touched on just about everything, but it was very informative, and hopefully they watch this and listen to it when they're driving around making applications. They'll think about the different applications that they could make to, their properties, and think about some of the conversations that we've had here with the pesticides and the proprietary products.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, one thing that I've noticed over the years is that, doing aquatic treatments can be overwhelming, because it's different. It's different experience and expertise come into play doing aquatic treatments versus terrestrial stuff. So this is out, all the golf course superintendents or property managers, whoever's listening, if it's something that you don't want to tackle, that's okay. Like, I know as a former golf course superintendent, I was focused more on greens, tees, fairways, rough. Like that was my priority, and that should be your priority. A lot of times it's just much easier to go ahead and hire and contract out with a lake management company. If you don't know one, reach out to your Heritage rep, and we've got a lot of great customers that would love to come and partner with you and help keep your lakes and ponds looking great. So we can pair you up with somebody that's in your area, one of our customers, and they would love to help you manage your lakes and ponds. So, and like I said, these lake management companies do more than just come out and treat vegetation. I mean, they're looking at water quality. They're, looking at the fishery side of things, doing fish stocking and things of that nature. So there's a lot of things outside of just simply treating vegetation that they can do for you on your property. So,
Rob, final thoughts?
No, I think that was great. I mean, I think that of all the crossover segments that some of our customers deal with, this is the one that they're most uncertain about. The rates are different. How we look at things are different.
Mhm.
The length of time it takes that Chris mentioned with getting control. So many of our other, if you're putting out a fungicide, insecticide, common terrestrial herbicides, they want a reaction. You tell somebody it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks, they're going to look for another control. So I think letting them know that these are slower processes, we need to put a plan together, will help them get the control that they want.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, repetition
So,
is going to be big. A lot of these guys
keeping the
don't
plan.
use the products very often or haven't
Yeah.
ever used an aquatic product. The more you do it, the more comfortable you'll be with the process.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Cool.
So no, great topic. We really appreciate you for attending today, Chris. You were our second guest speaker along with TJ Shine. So we look forward to having other people within Heritage participate in the Mass Tangent conversations to give our customers more insight into the other parts of our industry that they may not be as familiar with.
Cool. No, thank y'all for having me. I always enjoy talk. I love aquatics and always enjoy talking about it. So, any customers out there that have questions, reach out to your Heritage rep, and I'm always available to help with, identification of weeds, algae, whatever it is, help devise plans, treatment plans. That's what we do. So I'm happy to help.
Your inbox is going to blow up.
It is going to blow up, Chris. You're going to get so many questions when this hits the airwaves.
Just invited it. You brought this on yourself. It's all good. Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, everyone.